I live alone, and most nights are quiet enough that I notice the smallest sounds. That night, it was raining hard. Not bursts, not sudden storms, just a steady, endless rain that drummed on the roof and against the windows. I was putting dishes away before bed when I noticed it again. The old plate. It was chipped along the rim. I had brought it from my grandmother's house years ago. She had always kept 10 plates in her cupboard. 10. Always 10. When I was younger, she told a story about a servant girl named Okiku, a girl who worked in a wealthy household. One of the master's plates went missing. She was blamed, thrown into a well. And after that, people said they could hear her counting plates at night, counting over and over, always stopping at 9. I never believed it. I laughed. I kept the plate anyway. It felt wrong to throw it out. I stacked my dishes, counting each one as I put it away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I closed the cupboard and went to make tea, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling that had crept in. A few minutes later, I heard it. A scrape. Porcelain shifting lightly against wood. I froze. I told myself it was nothing. Apartments make sounds at night. Pipes, cabinets. The building settling. Then it happened again. Scrape. Closer this time. Like something moving inside the cupboard itself. I opened it. 9 plates. I counted them over and over. 9. Only 9. I checked the counter, the sink, everywhere. Nothing. No broken pieces. Nothing missing. Aside from that one plate I had counted before. Then I heard it. A voice. Soft. Fragile. Behind me. 1. I didn't turn around. I didn't want to see her. 2. The voice wasn't far. It wasn't close. It was inside the room. Part of it. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Silence. I stayed in the kitchen for a long time after that, waiting, listening, trying to convince myself I had imagined it. Eventually, I shut the cupboard and left the lights on in the living room for the rest of the night. Right before morning, it came again. 1. Slow, measured, and it counted again, stopping at 9. In the morning, I checked the cupboard. 9 plates. I bought a new set that afternoon. I put the old ones in a box and left them in the cupboard so I wouldn't have to look at them. That night, the counting came back, but it didn't come from the cupboard this time. It came from the hallway. 1. I opened the cupboard immediately. The box was open. The plates were stacked again. 9. I tried something the next night. I counted first, 1 through 10. For a moment, the apartment went completely silent. No rain, no movement, nothing. I thought it had worked. Then I heard the cupboard door open behind me, and the voice, closer than before. 1. I stopped counting after that. Every night she counts. She always stops at 9. And lately, she pauses after it, as if she's waiting for me to finish. And I can't help but feel that one day, she will.
I grew up in a village where winter lasted longer than memory. Not colder, just longer. Snow would fall, melt, and then return as if it had forgotten something. By late afternoon, the fields turned flat and white, and distance became difficult to judge. A tree 50 steps away could look like a stain on paper. My father always said the mountains erased sound first. That was how you knew night had truly begun. I did wood cutting work along the forest road with an older man named Genji. He walked slower than me but never slipped. Even in deep snow, his feet seemed to understand where the ground would be. We finished late that day. The sky had already faded into a pale, colorless gray, and the wind had stopped completely. Not weakened, stopped. I remember noticing it because the prayer ribbons near the shrine no longer moved. We should have hurried. Instead, we talked while walking. Voices carry strangely in snow. They sound close even when you're tired enough to lag behind. I could hear him clearly, though he was several steps ahead. Then I couldn't. Not gradually. One moment there was the crunch of his sandals, the next there was only mine. I stopped and called his name. The sound felt swallowed before it traveled. Genji was standing farther down the path near the river hut. I must have fallen behind more than I thought. We reached the hut just as the first snow began again, slow flakes that seemed to hang instead of fall. The ferry rope across the river had already stiffened with ice. No crossing that night. We slid the door shut and sat on opposite sides of a small fire we built from scrap wood. The hut smelled faintly of wet rope and old smoke. I held my hands near the flame, listening to the river beneath the forming ice. It made a low, steady knocking sound, like distant wood against wood. Genji leaned back against the wall and closed his eyes. I watched the flame bend and straighten. Time passed without measure. Eventually, the knocking stopped. I don't remember falling asleep. I remember waking. The fire was out. The air looked pale. At first, I thought snowlight had crept through the cracks, but the glow filled the entire room evenly, as though the darkness had been diluted. Genji sat beside the wall exactly as before, but he was too still. The door stood open. I was certain we had barred it. Beyond it, the snowfall moved slowly sideways without wind. Someone stood there. I didn't react immediately. My mind searched for simple explanations. A traveler, a villager, a trick of distance. The shape remained thin and unmoving. Then she stepped forward. Her feet touched the floor without sound. Her clothing was white, but untouched by melting snow. The hem should have darkened. I remember thinking that before anything else, a small detail that felt more wrong than her presence. She approached Genji. I tried to speak, but my breath came out shallow and cold. She bent toward his face. A quiet exhale escaped her lips. The faintest sound, softer than the settling of snow. Frost spread along his eyebrows. It moved slowly across his skin until his features lost all softness. I watched the moment his chest stopped rising. My hands would not move. Then she turned to me. Her face held no anger, no kindness either, only recognition. "You are young," she said. Her voice carried no echo. It seemed to exist only where I heard it. "I will spare you." I wanted to ask why, but the question never reached my mouth. "You must never speak of this," she continued. "Not to anyone. If you do, I will know." The hut felt smaller as she stood. Snow drifted inward around her but did not land. She stepped backward, and the night reclaimed its darkness. The river resumed its low knocking beneath the ice. I collapsed forward and shook uncontrollably until dawn. They said Genji froze in the storm. I agreed. Years passed in careful silence. I worked the same road, avoided the ferry hut whenever possible. When snow fell without wind, I went indoors. I never told anyone. One evening, many winters later, I found a woman walking along the roadside just before dusk. No footprints trailed behind her. She bowed politely and asked for shelter until morning. My mother hesitated before welcoming her in, though she could not explain why. The woman spoke softly, worked diligently, and never seemed troubled by cold water or thin blankets. During winter, she watched the snowfall with quiet attention, as if listening to it. We married the following year. Life became full, children, chores, ordinary noise that pushed old memories into distant corners. I began to believe silence had protected me, until one night. Snow pressed against the shutters, and the house glowed dimly with lamplight. My wife sat beside me mending clothes. The thread slipped, and she exhaled gently. The same soft sound. Memory returned without warning. The pale hut, the frozen breath, Genji's unmoving face. I spoke before I could stop myself. I told her everything, every detail I had buried for years. When I finished, the room felt colder than the night outside. She looked at me steadily. "You promised," she said. Her voice had not changed, yet it belonged to another time. "I warned you," she said quietly. I could not stand. Frost formed along the wooden frame near her shoulder. Then she looked toward the room where our children slept. Her expression softened. "For their sake, I will not take your life." The words settled heavier than any threat. "Never speak again." The air stirred once. She was gone. Her bedding was untouched by warmth. No footprints left the doorway. I told the children she had returned to her village in the mountains.
They accepted it. Children accept many things. Every winter since, when the wind stops completely and the world turns pale, I wake before dawn. I listen for breathing that is not mine, and I keep my silence.